That Christmas, my sister got tickets to Europe. I got a self-help book. The next morning, my phone lit up with missed calls and panic. They knew what I'd do next. But before we get into that, I know what you're probably thinking. Maybe the book wasn't so bad. Maybe it was one of those thoughtful, uplifting reads, full of gentle life lessons and watercolor flowers on the cover. Yeah, no. This one had a cartoon woman on the front, probably mid-30s, clinging to a juice box and a glitter wand, while unpaid bills fluttered dramatically around her head. The subtitle? Stop being a toddler in a grown-up body. Classy. Meanwhile, my sister was too busy opening a cream-colored envelope that practically shimmered with upper-class energy. She didn't even need to tilt it toward the light. The airline logo was right there in bold. She gasped like she was in a soap opera. Barcelona. And my parents just beamed, like they'd been waiting for the applause. We wanted you to have another chance to expand your global network, my dad said, like he was sending her off to broker peace in the Middle East. Field research, my mom chimed in. It'll be great for your career. Then she turned to me, like an afterthought, and added, maybe this book can help you with yours. I smiled. That kind of smile you do when your options are either that or bursting into tears, or losing it completely and laughing until you sound unhinged. And I wish I could tell you this kind of thing was new. But honestly, if my family did themed holidays, mine would be called One-Sided Christmas. Last year, she got a brand new MacBook for grad school. I got a laminated checklist titled Garage Organization, 2022 Goals. Handwritten. In Comic Sans. No joke. I've learned to expect the afterthought treatment. I work full-time at a kindergarten. It's loud, it's sticky, it's a little bit chaotic, but it's honest. Unlike my family, that place doesn't pretend to be something it's not. My days are filled with wiping tears, breaking up toddler turf wars over plastic dinosaurs, and pretending not to notice when someone eats glitter glue again. Back in the day, I even used to run kids' birthday parties on the weekends. Balloon animals, fairy wings, the whole whimsical circus. My sister once laughed and said, "You're the only adult I know with 6 pairs of glitter wings and not a single winter coat." She wasn't wrong. My parents always referred to it as the clown job, even though I never wore a clown suit. Because, I respect myself. And I respect kids enough not to terrify them unnecessarily. I've cut back on those gigs lately. Not because I outgrew them, but because weekends aren't really mine anymore. Most of them get eaten up babysitting my sister's daughter. Pro bono, of course. Because in my mom's words, it takes a village. Apparently, I am that village. Every house, every street. I'm the babysitter, the emotional support animal, the on-call nurse, and the substitute pediatrician when their regular one is out of town. So when they handed me that book, with its smug cartoon woman mid-meltdown, I didn't say a word. No tears. No flipping tables. Did I want to? Absolutely. But instead, I took a sip of the lukewarm hot chocolate I'd made for the whole family and just sat there, wondering how it was possible to be 31 years old and still feel like the overlooked kid at the grown-up table. Dinner came next, of course. One of those potluck-style spreads where my contributions were homemade, carefully seasoned, and from the heart. My sister brought a can of cranberry sauce. Still in the shape of the can. Guess whose dish got the applause? Wow, Lauren, this cranberry sauce is amazing. Did you make it yourself? My dad asked with wide-eyed admiration. She barely looked up. Nope, just opened the can. He laughed like she'd just landed a punchline on national television. You've always been the practical one, he said proudly. I nearly choked on the rosemary potatoes I'd roasted for 3 hours. Afterward, I offered to help clean up, naturally. My mom handed me a trash bag and said, "You've always been good at this kind of stuff. That's what I love about you. You're never too proud for the little jobs." I wanted so badly to ask, what is it that they think I do? If managing 25 tiny humans and keeping them from sticking gum in each other's hair doesn't count as real work, then what does? But I held it in, because it was Christmas, and I already knew the answer. They didn't see me as an adult. Not really. To them, I was the helper, the backup, the cheerful assistant who'd never outshine the star. They didn't think of me as ambitious or important, just nice. And in my family, being nice means you're on dish duty. Every time. That night, I lay awake in my rented room above a nail salon, staring up at the ceiling. I could still hear my niece's giggle from earlier, when we made a reindeer puppet out of paper plates and pom-poms. Her laugh echoed louder than anything my parents had said all day. And that's when it hit me. That book, the one they gave me as a joke, maybe they were right. Not in the way they meant it, though. Not in the go get a corporate job kind of way. But in the maybe it's time I stopped letting people treat me like I'm disposable kind of way. So I got out of bed, brushed glitter off the floor, sat down at my desk, and I wrote a message. Short, clear, no sarcasm, just boundaries. Real ones. I told my sister I'd be stepping away from babysitting duties next year. I love being her kid's aunt. I do. But I couldn't keep giving away every weekend like it was nothing. I had to protect my time, my peace, my sanity. I let her know, kindly but directly, that I wouldn't be helping with travel expenses or tuition anymore. I've got my own life to build. I wished her the best. Truly. I meant it. Then I messaged my parents. I thanked them for the book. Told them it gave me a lot to think about. I didn't say how it made me feel. Didn't have to. Because the next morning, the phone rang. And rang. And rang. But this time, I didn't answer. Because I had work. Real work. Because I had 25 kids who look at me and see someone who matters. Because I finally saw myself that way too. I had a life now. One that didn't revolve around guilt trips, expectations I never agreed to, or sacrificing my peace for someone else's convenience. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I was finally learning how to grow up, but in a way that felt like mine. I wasn't looking for a parade or anything. No grand applause. But I also didn't think I'd wake up to 6 missed calls, 2 voicemails, and a group text from my mom saying, "We're just very surprised. This feels out of character." Out of character? Really? You know what else is out of character? Handing your grown daughter a passive-aggressive self-help book for Christmas and expecting her to keep folding laundry, scrubbing dishes, and raising your other kid like some glitter-covered live-in nanny with no paycheck. But yeah, I was the problem now. Apparently. I didn't answer them. Not that day. Not the day after either. I figured, let them sit with it. After all, my parents were big believers in natural consequences when I was a kid. So I thought, let them have one. Now, if you asked my parents or even Lauren, they'd paint my childhood as picture-perfect. Stable household. No yelling. Good schools. Nothing tragic to blame for my behavior, right? But what they never seemed to get was this. Some of the deepest wounds don't show up in baby pictures. They don't scream or bleed. They just settle quietly into your bones, passed off as jokes, parenting styles, or you're just sensitive. When I was 7, I told them, straight-faced and proud, that I wanted to be a fairy when I grew up. Not a ballerina. Not a doctor. A fairy. I even had a little speech ready to go. Wings, magic, helping people, I was all in. My dad laughed so hard he nearly dropped his fork. "Maybe aim for something with dental insurance," he snorted. My mom just smiled and said, "She'll change her mind." They always do. But I didn't. I never did. That childhood dream turned into a real career in early childhood education. The fairy wings became storybooks, craft projects, puppet shows, and messy art time that made kids beam like they were lit from the inside. But to them, it was still just a phase. Something cute I'd outgrow. An entertaining little detour on the way to something that sounded better in a family newsletter. Lauren, on the other hand, she was the gold standard. She knew exactly what she wanted. From day one. Success, but the glossy, LinkedIn-approved kind. At 16, she already had a professional headshot and a working resume. She practiced debate in the mirror like it was a sport and wrote essays about global issues she didn't care about just to win prizes. She was great at performance, just not the kind with glitter or construction paper. So when she told them she wanted to study international relations, my parents acted like she'd just found the cure for cancer. She's going to change the world, they'd say, hands on hearts. And maybe she would. But first, she needed scholarships. Then internships. Then, when the free money dried up, she got me. At first, it was little things. "Can you cover my visa fee this month?" she'd ask. Just until my next paycheck hits. Then it was textbooks. Then a networking event in Berlin that looked suspiciously like a yoga retreat with tapas. Then came childcare. That one stuck. She had her daughter, Ala, die 2 years ago. And look, I was thrilled. I love that kid. Honestly, with every piece of me. But loving her didn't mean I'd signed up to co-parent while her actual parents chased careers across time zones. It started small, like these things always do. Just an hour here or there. Just a quick Saturday. Just one weekend. We haven't had a break in so long. And somehow, just became always. I missed birthday parties for the kids I worked with because I was watching Alla die. I canceled dates. I turned down party gigs. My weekends disappeared like smoke. One time I mentioned maybe picking those gigs back up, just to earn a little extra. My mom waved it off. "Honey, that's not a real business. That's like playing dress up," she said. She said it while I was holding her granddaughter, who was literally dressed in a sparkly tutu and calling me Fairy Auntie. The irony? Completely lost on her. But the real kicker? I let it happen. All of it. I swallowed every comment, took every shift, smiled through every favor. Because I thought being good meant being useful, being needed, being the helper. Even if that meant being invisible. That's what I'd been taught, whether anyone said it out loud or not. When Lauren brought home straight A's, they framed her report cards. When I won a storytelling contest dressed as a dinosaur, they told me not to be a show-off. When she declared she was going into diplomacy, they turned the guest room into her study space. When I said I wanted to work with children, they asked if I'd at least get a backup degree. They didn't see me. Not really. They saw the glitter and assumed I was stuck in some kind of never-ending childhood. But here's the truth. I've handled more tantrums, soothed more fears, and juggled more chaos than most middle managers do on their best day. I do it all, just in sneakers instead of heels, and with a little more glitter than your average 9-to-5er. I didn't become a fairy, but I did become someone kids feel safe with. Someone who notices when they're quietly hurting. Someone who turns toilet paper rolls into dragons and hugs into courage. But that's not what they call successful. Not in my family. To them, success looks like Lauren. And I almost believed them. I almost bought into the lie that being cheerful made me immature. That loving children made me foolish. That being supportive made me less. Until that book. That awful little book. That's when it clicked. Growing up didn't mean becoming less of myself. It meant stepping fully into who I am, with boundaries. So I started making space. Just a little, at first. That week after Christmas, I didn't babysit. I didn't volunteer. I didn't drop hints or circle back. When Lauren asked if I could help with a quick errand, I told her I couldn't. When she reminded me they had a dinner Friday night, I said, "I hope it's lovely. Maybe next time." She didn't answer. I also stopped sending money. No drama. I just stopped. I didn't announce it or explain. I let the silence speak for itself. And by Thursday, the text started rolling in. "Nina, you've always been so generous. It's a little hurtful that you're choosing now to pull away." My mom wrote. "Dad and I are worried. This sudden coldness is concerning." Lauren, in all her usual grace, sent, "So I guess I'm on my own now?" Well, that was the moment it really sunk in. The minute you stop being convenient, the moment you stop being free, suddenly, you're the villain. But the thing was, I wasn't backing away. I was standing up. For my own time. For my sanity. For the tiny sparks of joy I'd been handing over like they didn't cost me anything. And somewhere in the middle of it all, I laughed. Like, really laughed. Not the polite kind. Not the please don't cry in front of the family kind. The kind that makes your shoulders shake. The kind that makes your eyes crinkle. One of my coworkers spilled juice on her pants and turned it into a full-blown safety lesson for the kids. "Remember, juice makes floors slippery," she announced like a superhero PSA. And one of my kids looked up at me with absolute sincerity and said, "I love you more than jelly beans, but not more than space." And I laughed. Because that's real. That kind of love, the silly, sparkly, unconditional kind, it doesn't come from obedience. It doesn't come from guilt. It comes from showing up, as you are, and letting that be enough. Joy like that, the kind that bubbles up from somewhere real, it doesn't come from being agreeable, or from keeping everyone else comfortable. It comes from living truthfully, from making the decision, day after day, to be the kind of adult you'd actually want to spend time with. Even if that adult happens to own 6 pairs of fairy wings and keeps a color-coded spreadsheet just to track how much glitter is left in each jar. The first real signal that my boundaries were starting to rattle the family cage came through the group chat. The all-too-familiar family thread, a place usually reserved for guilt-tripping, passive-aggressive recipes, and blurry photos of Harper covered in spaghetti. This time, it was my mom. "Quick question. Are you free this weekend for Harper? Lauren and Jaden have something. Shouldn't take long. Short, polite, but loaded." I responded, "Sorry, I've got plans." Didn't offer an explanation. Didn't leave the door open. Just, "No." Lauren chimed in a minute later. "Plans or one of your little parties?" I didn't even blink. "Neither. Just not available." Then Dad jumped in. "That's disappointing. We were really counting on you. Counting on me, he said. Like I'm a laundry cycle they assumed would just be on standby. Like all those Saturdays and missed outings never happened. No acknowledgement. No gratitude. Just expectation. That weekend, I took myself to the zoo. Alone. And let me tell you, it was incredible. I fed giraffes. I bought overpriced cotton candy just because I could. And when a toddler tossed his sneaker into the meerkat exhibit yelling, "That's my offering," I laughed out loud. Big, ridiculous, unfiltered laughter. No one followed me around. No one asked me to hold a baby just for a second. No one rolled their eyes and muttered something about my little hobbies. I didn't even post about it. I kept the joy for myself. Just mine. Of course, the post-zoo serenity didn't last long. About 36 hours, to be exact. Because Monday morning, I walked into work to find 3 missed calls from my dad and a voicemail that began with the words, "We're deeply hurt," which, historically, has never preceded anything good. Apparently, Lauren had lined up a paid sitter for that Saturday. But the teen, nose ring, fake resume, whole deal, bailed at the last minute. And instead of skipping her cocktail mixer or staying home with her own kid, she handed Harper off to Jaden's cousin. Let's just say, not the best choice. He forgot to change Harper's diaper for 5 hours, let her squirt whipped cream straight from the can, and taught her to say, "Screw this." Yes, that's what I was dealing with. My mom was appalled. "Do you even understand the stress Lauren is under?" she said, voice full of righteous frustration. "She doesn't need betrayal on top of everything else." Betrayal. That was the word she used. Like I'd sold state secrets or left a toddler on the side of the road. I didn't respond. I just stared at my phone and peeled a PAW Patrol sticker off my notebook while breathing through my nose. Then came the text from Lauren. Not a request this time, a declaration. "We need to talk," she wrote. "Mom says you've been weird lately. Also, I noticed my tuition deposit hasn't gone through. Are you behind or?" I actually laughed. Loudly. Right there in the break room. 2 coworkers looked over, eyebrows raised, like I'd just dropped the first line of a soap opera. I texted back, "I'm not behind. I just stopped." She called immediately. "You what?" "I stopped sending money. You can't just do that without warning. I'm applying to this Geneva program and—" "I'm not your sponsor, Lauren," I said. "I'm your sister." For a second, a single, glorious second, she went quiet. Then came the sigh. The scoff. "This is about the stupid book, isn't it?" I almost said yes. Would have been easy. Neat. Convenient. But the truth? That book was just the cherry on a very old, very bitter sundae. "No," I said. "It's about everything." "What's everything?" "You," I said. "And Mom. And Dad. And how none of you actually take me seriously unless I'm making your lives easier. How my job's a punchline, but my unpaid labor is holy. How I've spent thousands helping you chase your dreams while you sneer at mine like they're make-believe." "Oh my God," she muttered. "You're being dramatic." There it was, the classic Lauren shutdown. The same tone she used when we were kids, and she ripped the head off my favorite unicorn plushie and told me I was being too sensitive. "You need to grow up," she added. "I have," I replied, calm but firm. "And guess what? Part of being a grown-up is knowing where your limits are. You're not entitled to my money. And you're definitely not entitled to my time. I love Harper, but I'm not your nanny." She hung up. And, honestly, that felt like a win. Until things escalated. 2 days later, my mom showed up at my work. No heads up. Just appeared, full coat, scarf, lipstick, the whole. I'm not angry, just disappointed look in real life. I was mid-cleanup from a glitter tornado in the art corner when I saw her standing in the hallway, scanning the crayon whales on the bulletin board like they might reveal a felony. "Can we talk?" she asked. I blinked. "Right now." She gave me a tight smile. "Just a moment." I stepped into the hall still holding a purple glue stick. She dove right in. "Your sister's upset. She says you're being cold. And, honestly, I agree." I said nothing. She looked around the hallway and added, "I know you love this place, but maybe it's time to think about the bigger picture. You're not a teenager anymore." I looked down at the glue stick in my hand. Then back up. "You know what's funny?" I said. "Every single day, I tell my kids their feelings matter. That it's okay to speak up. To say no." She blinked. "And I actually believe that," I added. "Even if I've got sparkles on my jeans while I'm saying it." She stared at me like I just quoted ancient scripture in another language. "I'm not being cold," I said. "I'm being clear. That's what growing up means. You set limits. You protect your peace. You decide how you want to live. And abandoning your family? She shot back. No, I said. Just stepping out of unpaid servitude. She opened her mouth to argue, but I walked away, back into my classroom. Because snack time is sacred. And my kids? They don't care if I buy plane tickets to Europe. The following weeks were quiet. Strange kind of quiet. No new requests. No guilt texts. Just silence. Until Harper's birthday. I didn't get a call. Or a message. What I got was a Facebook post. There was Harper, grinning from inside a bouncy castle, holding a cake twice her size. Lauren and Jaden stood beside her in matching pastels, smiling like they were auditioning for a family-themed detergent commercial. The caption? Some families are born. Others show up. I wasn't tagged. Neither was anyone from my side of the family. I sat with that post for a long time. On the couch. In total silence. Eating popcorn I didn't even want. Then I got up. Booked a small venue. Opened the costume boxes I hadn't touched in months. Messaged a few parents. Called in some favors. And that next weekend, I threw a party. A real one. Messy. Loud. Sparkly. Magical. Just me and Harper. No drama. No manipulation. No performances. We made paper crowns. Put on a puppet show. I let her fire off glitter confetti like she was queen of the unicorn kingdom. She hugged me so tight at the end, I almost fell over. Best birthday ever, she whispered. I didn't cry. I just smiled and said, that's what Annies are for. No strings. No guilt. Just love. And for once, I wasn't playing pretend. She hugged me so tight at the end of that party, I actually had to brace myself to stay on my feet. Her little voice whispered against my shoulder, best birthday ever. I didn't cry. I thought I might. But I didn't. Instead, I just smiled and told her the truth. That's what Annies are for. No expectations. No guilt trips. Just pure, uncomplicated love. Just a little bit of magic. And for once, I got to be the adult in the room. Not the assistant. Not the afterthought. The actual grown-up. Of course, the peace didn't last. It all began unraveling thanks to a 10-second voice note. One of those innocent little things that toddlers send by accident, except this one hit a nerve. Harper had sent it from her iPad, the one she mainly used to watch cartoons and occasionally call strangers by mistake. In the background, you could hear her shouting in that high-pitched, joy-drenched way that only 3-year-olds can manage. Fairy party. Fairy party. No boring party. No boring cake. And if you listen closely, just under her voice, you could hear me laugh. She'd been reliving that party all week. Running around the house in the sparkly tutu I gave her. Waving a glitter wand at the furniture. Asking where the singing dragon went. And honestly, I should have known Lauren would lose it. The first text she sent was short, vague. She's confused. Keeps talking about your party like it was the real one. Not helpful. Then a follow-up, a little more pointed. Emom, your sister's upset. Harper keeps calling our party boring. This is not okay. And then chaos. Apparently, in a moment of toddler honesty or treason, depending on who you ask, Harper told her daycare teacher, my mom is party boring. My fairy anti-party fun. She even tried to stash one of my glitter stickers in her cubby and declared it was for next time. I thought it was hilarious. Lauren thought it was a full-scale betrayal. Next thing I knew, my boss pulled me aside. Someone, no names were given, but we both knew had contacted the daycare to ask whether any staff had ever removed a child from class without permission. They weren't reporting me. Not officially. Just fishing. I sat there in the staff lounge, surrounded by construction paper turkeys and half-empty juice boxes, trying not to hyperventilate. I hadn't done anything wrong. And thank God, I had receipts. I pulled up the texts. Me, hey, just confirming for Saturday. Same drop-off time as last year. Lauren, sure. Just keep it simple. Me, all clear to do it at the community hall? Lauren, fine. Just text me the address. It was all there. In writing. She had approved everything. But that didn't stop the whispers. It didn't stop my aunt from calling and asking if I was okay emotionally. It didn't stop my dad from leaving a voicemail saying, you know, we could have gone to the police. We chose not to. Think about that. I sat with that voicemail for a long time, just staring at the wall. Then I made some tea, took a deep breath, opened a new folder on my laptop. Inside, every message. The venue receipt. Lauren's RSVP where she texted. We'll drop her off around 11. Thanks again. Then I opened my email and typed. Hi, Lauren. I've heard from several people that you've been suggesting I took Harper without permission. Just to be clear, I've attached the full thread showing your consent in writing. If I hear anything further, or if my workplace receives another inquiry like this, I'll be forced to seek legal counsel. I love Harper with all my heart, but I will not be slandered for throwing a birthday party you signed off on. Best. Me. She didn't respond, but my mom did. Of course she did. This is family, not court. You're being cold again. Please come talk it through. Cold. That was always the label. Not slandered. Not accused. Cold. Because every time I tried to stand up for myself, they turned my tone into the crime. If I stayed calm, I was icy. If I got upset, I was too emotional. There was never a setting that was okay. Meanwhile, Harper kept asking for me. Her daycare teacher texted to say she tried to call me using a toy phone. She told her teacher she wanted to invite me to party part 2. Just me and her. I smiled when I read that. Then I cried. Quietly. In the corner of my room. But I didn't reach out. Not even when Lauren posted a picture of Harper playing in the yard with the caption, "Home is where the real family is." Not even when my parents posted a joint Facebook status about misguided family members who treat children like trophies. I said nothing. Because I didn't need to drown out their noise with more noise. I had truth. And as it turned out, I had backup. About a week later, my uncle called. The one who once brought me cake on a random Tuesday just because he felt like I needed a reminder that I mattered. "I saw your mom's post," he said. "People are talking. It's ridiculous." "I didn't do anything wrong," I told him. "You didn't," he said. "We all know." Apparently, my grandma had called Lauren to ask what was going on. Lauren hung up on her. Then my cousin messaged me on the side. I saw the photos. Harper looked so happy. "You're amazing with her." But the message that broke me came from someone I barely knew, a friend of Lauren's. We'd met once. Maybe twice. "Hey," the DM started. "I know this isn't really my place, but the way they've been talking about you, it's not okay. If you ever need someone to back you up, I'm here." That message? It wasn't long, but it landed like an anchor. Because I wasn't crazy. I wasn't being difficult. I was just the first person to say no. That same weekend, I booked 3 new party clients. Parents who'd seen photos from the fairy party and wanted that same spark. One of them said, "We've done the whole bounce house and clown thing. But this feels like actual joy." And maybe that was the whole point. Lauren's party? It was Pinterest perfect. Match balloons. Designer cake. Professional photos. Mine? Mine was wild. Messy. A little loud. And completely magical. But it was real. Then Monday came. And with it, a letter. Handwritten. In Lauren's familiar, sharp-edged cursive. Inside was a short note. I overreacted. I was scared. I didn't like that Harper was so happy without me. "You did nothing wrong. I'm sorry. If you want distance, I get it. But if you ever want to see her again, I hope you'll let me know." I sat with that note in my hands for a long time. I didn't forgive her right away. Healing doesn't happen on a deadline. But I did write back. "I love Harper. I'm always happy to see her. But I can't be part of a system that turns love into leverage. If we're going to rebuild anything, it has to start with truth." She never replied. But 3 weeks later, she sent a video. It was Harper, twirling in the tutu I'd given her. Glitter flying like fireworks. At the end of the clip, she stopped spinning, looked straight into the camera, and said, "I love my fairy Andy." And this time, I didn't cry. I smiled. Because I didn't need to prove myself anymore. They tried to break me down, ruin my name. But instead, I built something stronger. It's been 3 years now. Harper's 5. She's 5 now, bursting with energy, imagination, and the firm belief that she's at least 1/3 unicorn. We see each other often. Not because it's convenient for her parents, but because she asks for me. She lights up when I walk through the door. And honestly, even Lauren and Jaden can't ignore how real that bond is. Also, let's be honest, they need the break. Lauren did finish her degree eventually. But it wasn't some sleek, Instagram-worthy success story. Without my financial help, things got harder. She had to let go of her travel plans, pass on a few unpaid career-boosting opportunities, and take out a loan that probably kept her up at night. She stumbled. She adjusted. She figured it out. And in her own way, she grew up too. These days she's working nothing flashy. Nothing international. Nothing she'd once have bragged about during Christmas dinner. But it's hers. And she's doing all right. Just not from a pedestal anymore. As for my parents, our connection is minimal now. A few texts here and there. A birthday message. The occasional, hope you're well. That's about it. They still don't understand what happened. They still think I made it all bigger than it needed to be, that I blew things out of proportion. But they've never once apologized. Not really. They just send those quiet little guilt-wrapped messages, your sister's doing her best, or we miss the way things used to be. But here's the thing, I don't miss the versions of myself I had to shrink into just to keep everyone else happy. I don't miss being useful instead of loved. Because the life I have now, it's mine. I run a small business where I get to do what I love, creative workshops for kids. Messy, colorful, loud, and full of heart. I've got birthday bookings lined up 2 months out. Parents are already calling me about next year. I'm invited to speak at early childhood events, panels, even small conferences. People want to hear what I have to say. And I've even got help now. I hired a part-time assistant named Talia. She's a magician with balloon animals and can make a T-Rex out of 2 tubes and a twist. She's a gem. I still wear glitter. Still tell stories in ridiculous voices. Still come home with paint in my hair and stickers on my sleeves. But here's the difference. Nobody's calling it childish anymore. They're calling it successful. They're calling it booked and thriving. And yes, sometimes, in the quiet moments, I do wonder, did I wait too long to draw the line? Or did I draw it too sharply? But then I look around at the life I've built, the peace I feel, the freedom I have, and I know the answer. So now I'll ask you, what do you think? Was I wrong for setting boundaries when I did? Or did I let them walk over me for too long before I finally stood up? Let me know in the comments. And if you've ever had to choose your own peace over someone else's comfort, if you've ever had to say no to people who only loved you when you were useful, then go ahead and hit like. Maybe even subscribe. Because I promise you, you're not alone.